Hey everyone, my name is Matt and I'm here with my good buddy John. John, say hello.
What's going on?
This is the Nerd Talk podcast brought to you by thedigitalworm.com. Every week we get together and we discuss 10 topics that we thought were 10 of the most interesting things to happen in nerd culture over the course of the last week. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with our number one topic of today. These are in no particular order, by the way, and they're just they're, you know, we don't label things from most important to nerds to least important to nerds. Like, it's just 10 topics. So the first one on the docket today, found this on Cinema Blend. Leslie Jones, who was in the Ghostbusters remake, had some things to say on Twitter about the third Ghostbusters film being made. She said, "So insulting, like, fuck us, we didn't count. It's like something Trump would do. Trump voice, gonna redo Ghostbusters, better with men, will be huge, those women ain't Ghostbusters. So annoying, such a dick move, and I don't give a fuck, I'm saying something." Like, okay, so I get it. Like, they're not being included in this film. And that's a kick in the dick. It really is. However, that film was really, really bad. They're looking at doing a continuation of the original two Ghostbusters films based on that kind of mythology. It's almost like the films were in two completely different universes. And when you have that kind of thing, I feel like in Hollywood you're able to sweep one of them under the rug. You know, until you start getting like to be Star Wars, where almost everything you make is bad with the exception of the original trilogy. You know, you can't sweep episodes 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9 and all those standalone crappy films under the rug anymore. You just can't do it. But I feel like with Ghostbusters, you can sweep the one bad movie under the rug and hope that you do better with this newest one. And I feel like, I'm sorry, Leslie Jones, but y'all's film was bad and is going to get swept under the rug, and it's a kick to the balls, sure, but stop being in bad movies. That's kind of the way I feel about it. John, how do you feel about it?
Well, it was immediately obvious how you felt about it when you called this the third Ghostbuster film. So you immediately erased the female-led
I
Ghostbusters
couldn't even
movie.
finish it.
I to be honest with you, you know that I don't really watch a whole lot of movies. I'm more of a show and book kind of person. So it should not surprise you that I actually have not gotten around to see this film. And it's not based on anyone saying this movie is not very good. I feel like I only know like 5 or 6 people who actually saw it, and like 2 or 3 of you said this movie is very bad, and then 2 or 3 other people said, "Hey, this is funny. I enjoyed this." I don't think that anyone said, "Hey, this is my new favorite film." But I mean, not every movie is going to be somebody's favorite movie. You know what I'm saying? Some movies are just going to be, "Hey, this is a movie I saw."
Sure.
And I think the majority of movies are to just about everyone, "Hey, this is some movie I saw."
Right.
And I don't know if it was a good movie or not because I didn't see it. I laughed at some of the trailers. I saw a few trailers. I think that the women that were in that film would have some sort of a kind of a hat tip to them somehow as a cameo or an end credits kind of thing where they go and come up and kick the new guys in the balls or something, like something funny, some humor. Apparently that's not going to be happening, but if it were something that I was involved with, that's how I would try to cut something like this off at the pass. I definitely understand how they would feel like they're being erased, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially based on the original. The main problem I have with the whole thing is the way that most of the fandom of the original films anti-female shit when this was originally announced, when the third film was originally announced. Then I feel like it's kind of tone deaf not to find some way to acknowledge them in the film, because it was pretty bad. Like one of the women who was in the film, her Twitter account, because of backlash of just them being in the film as Ghostbusters.
Right.
And I have a real hard time with that.
Well, yeah, man, that shit's unacceptable, and I
I don't
don't.
care if the movie was good or not. You want to say the movie that a movie is a piece of shit? I say go ahead and say the movie is a piece of shit. Well, I think it's what you're saying. You're just talking about its value as a film or not. You're not talking about how you feel one way or another about women playing roles that were men 30 years ago. I don't think you give a shit about that part. Give a shit about that part. You know, that part shouldn't matter. It should matter if it's a good movie or not. If it happened not to be a good film, well, sorry, folks, it just happened not to be a good film, and that's okay. And that's why I feel like you're saying. But the fact that there was so much, that's when movie was first announced years ago, that I feel like that they could have tied something in to show that the guy directing the film is not saying, "Hey, I'm with these assholes who don't like women in male roles, quote unquote," and I think that this is how it should be because men are men. Then he's just saying, "I feel like I can make a better film than you did. Sorry about that, folks." Which that statement is, of course, totally fine.
Well, he actually came to her defense, and he was like, this is something she has every right to say and be mad about.
Right, exactly.
I saw
So
that. I just don't remember where it was.
He clearly is not saying "fuck you" to women.
Right.
So that's a good thing. And I get her feeling like they are saying "fuck you" to women, but a way for her and her co of that film to not felt that way would to have some form of like an homage.
I mean, that's fair. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Like, I honestly feel like this movie is kind of the victim of the whole "we're gonna sweep you under the rug" because you don't really fit with what we did in the original two films that were extremely successful. That's kind of what I feel like is happening here. I don't think it has anything to do with them being women. I just think it's just a kick in the balls to them, and it's unfortunate, but it's gonna happen regardless.
Well, if you think about like, so the only other film that I could really liken this to is, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Halloween films as a whole.
Vaguely, a little bit.
At this point, I think we're up to like 12, and some of them are sequels to some of the films, but not sequels to other of the films, and some of them aren't actually connected to anything at all. There's at least two of them that have nothing to do with Michael Myers. The most recent one famously has to do with film 1 and 3 and ignores the rest of it. And I heard that was a great movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I eventually will. I have actually seen them all. 9, the one they called H2O, because it was the 20th anniversary of the Halloween films, literally was only a sequel to the first film. It ignored the 7 movies that came between 1 and 8. And so and there are people who will occasionally complain that these films aren't connected to one another, but overall the people who are a fan of the franchise kind of know how things are,
Right.
and so they're willing to accept of different dimensions almost. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's like this like unspoken multiverse theory in which Michael Myers exists in most of them.
Right.
And maybe they can do something like that with Ghostbusters. You can also add in what's kind of interesting to me, and most people don't realize this. In the 80s, there were 2 different Ghostbusters cartoons.
I only remember the one.
There were 2 of them. There was one that was called Ghostbusters and one that was called The Real Ghostbusters.
Right.
The Real Ghostbusters is probably the one that you know about. Yes. It's the one that most people know about. Yep. And a couple of the people who were in the film actually did some voice acting on the show, and it was serious for an 80s cartoon, and it was taken on the same continuity as what you have the Ghostbusters. And then you have the show Ghostbusters, which have character names that are the same, but they had a gigantic intelligent gorilla as their sidekick, and it did not follow the same continuity, and it's not the same thing. And these shows, if they didn't overlap, they came pretty close too, but they're both called Ghostbusters. The money went to the same people, and they're not in the same universe at all. and there was some weirdness with fans back then of that. So we're actually not treading any new ground with the Ghostbusters franchise having the potential to be considered different universes.
Fair. That's fair.
So to me, that's kind of neat, actually.
Yeah. I mean, if they wanted to set up like a multiverse thing, I think they could do a lot with it, and they could re-include this film. But I don't know if that's the route they want to take. All right, you ready to move on?
Go for it.
All right. So next topic: Netflix is reviving unsolved mysteries with Stranger Things producer. This has got me excited. Not only am I a huge Stranger Things fan, which I've mentioned on this show multiple times, I was a big Unsolved Mysteries fan as a kid. Like, I loved it. Like, it was like like, it scared me. Like, it would freak me out as a kid. I would hide under the blanket. Like, I felt like what's the name of the actor from Unsolved Mysteries, the main guy?
Stack. Robert Stack.
Robert Stack. He just has that kind of creepy voice, doesn't he? That would just kind of scare.
That dude was great.
Yeah,
Actor, he was an awesome narrator. He made you like he just kind of. It's almost like he believed talking about,
but
and some of it was
kid,
pretty fucking unbelievable.
You can imagine just that voice going with the story and just scaring the shit out of kids. You know, like
I fucking loved that show.
Me too, man. But at like 5 and 6 years old, it would freak me the fuck out.
Sure.
So what do you think about them rebooting it? I feel like if anybody's going to reboot this in the right way, it's going to be Netflix using a Stranger Things producer to get it done. I'm all about this reboot. I love the idea. What are your personal thoughts?
Absolutely. No. Well, so here's the thing, man. Like, there's a couple different ways they can handle the show. The original run actually went on past the death of Robert Stack. This lady, they did it. They changed it. They moved it to Lifetime. They had this blonde lady as the narrator, and it basically became the show about domestic disappearances based on that. And every once in a while there was a murder, and they took out anything that wasn't like. And I think it was as popular as anything on Lifetime ever is, for the same reasons. But apparently it took basically all the heart out of the show, and that shows us kind of a way that they shouldn't go with it. What was interesting as a kid to me, and to I don't even know if the people who made the show realized how many kids were watching that show. They probably had no fucking clue. But apparently it was a lot, because there's a lot of people our age that talk about that show. What was interesting to kids was all the paranormal shit that they did. UFOs and ghosts and Bigfoot and angels and demons and possessions and weird stuff that you didn't see any show but that show take seriously at that time frame.
Right.
This kind of stuff doesn't age very well. In the 80s, before we have that connects us all so much, sit in your living room, watch television, and feel very alone in the world. You look outside, and you may live in a place with a lot of street lights, or you may live in a place with no street lights. I moved around a ton, so I've experienced both those things. But when people are all home in their houses, and most of them are watching television, and at that point in time in the 80s, that was a normal thing. That's what everyone did. They went home and they watched TV, and they didn't go out and do things. And it was our culture. The sidewalks rolled up at 7 p.m. and stores actually closed. I know young people have a hard time believing that stores used to close, but they did, including convenience stores. Everything closed.
Yep. I remember, like, we used to eat TV dinners and watch fucking Tour of Duty in my house.
I mean, growing up in North Carolina, up until I was in my mid-teens, if it was Sunday and you needed to go to the grocery store, you did it between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. because that was the only time those fuckers were open. That was it. That's all you got. If you missed it, I guess you're not having dinner Sunday night. and that was the culture we lived in, and that even as late as the mid to early 90s. And so you sit in front of on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and Unsolved Mysteries comes on, and you have that sense of almost being alone in the world. And then they start talking about this alien shit and all these, hauntings and spooky feeling came from was we don't have that connection. When now in 2019, I've got a computer in my pants right now. Anyone I've ever known who's still alive on that computer that's in my pants right now. And that disconnectedness that lets you feel spooked out. The data that we have access to on a regular basis that debunks a lot of things till just after that time frame considered to be unknown or unexplained or strange in any way whatsoever, technology takes it away. So I don't know if they can even, with a straight face, weird or paranormal onto that show, because we all know better now. Maybe we didn't in the 80s. And that takes it to just being able to only put in things like missing persons in murder and locked room mysteries, things like that, which can occasionally be interesting, but I don't know is going to hold anyone's. There's already documentary series that covers all of that type of stuff really, really well. Oh, I didn't. I didn't say name. I'm just saying that there are multiple documentary series that cover things like missing persons, or we don't necessarily have answers to, or locked room mysteries where someone died and no one can figure out how someone got in to do it. Like the number of very well made, impressive documentary series for crime these days, unbelievable. I didn't even realize how many there are until I started looking into it for this. There's a shit ton, and most of them are very, very well done. It's hard to know what place find, if any, to do this. And then if they do try to do like the potential for like the ancient aliens thing and all this other stuff, which is more problematic than you would think, and for reasons that I won't get into at this point, Ancient Aliens does it, and probably does it better, among other television shows like this. There's figure out what niche they're going to try for.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it.
I'll give it an episode. I'll give it an episode. I'll give it a shot.
You cannot give a Netflix show one episode. You just can't. I mean, we all know that, dude. You need at least 3 episodes of any Netflix show to decide whether or not you're actually going to like it.
Well, this is not a drama, though. That's true for dramas, I think, most of the time. But I think it's not going to be true for this, because if 5 minutes in, if the narrator's voice pisses me off, I'm not going to keep watching it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
And now it's a narrator that's someone who's an actor that I don't explicitly enjoy. I probably won't bother. One thing that I will note from the article that you sent me is they've already changed the format of the show. If you recall, the way the show worked, you'd have an hour-long program, and you'd have 6 stories. You'd have big story, 2 small stories, big story, 2 small stories. Each episode on this is going to be is going to be centered around a single story, which I think is less interesting to me, because like the current documentary series that are already out there. Something that was interesting about Unsolved Mysteries is that it treated itself like or like 2020, right, where it had multiple stories that they treated like the news, so that you could get like a kind of a shotgun blast of different types of things. And I think it's a little bit of a mistake not to continue that formula. The formula worked really well, in my opinion. That also allowed them to do 3 is the 2 big ones, and then 2 missing persons, and then 1 or 2 paranormal things too. So they were able to sneak those ones in, as opposed to being forced to use a full episode on the weird shit.
Yeah. I didn't realize that's how they were going to do it. I guess I must have just skipped over that part.
They sneak it in there in one sentence. I'm good at finding those little one sentence things, man.
But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give it a shot for sure. I love Netflix. I love unsolved mysteries. I'll give it a few episodes. But like you, if the narrator's not pleasant, or if I don't find him pleasing to my ears, I don't know if I'll be able to go, 2-3 episodes in. But I think they're gonna find somebody similar with a similar sounding voice. Something just tells me that. That's just my gut to the original narrator.
Do you have a preference as to who the narrator is going to be?
I do not.
Okay.
It's one of those things where I'll listen to it or I'll watch it, and if I like it, I like it, and if I don't like it, I don't like it. Not gonna come up with any kind of like preconceived notions. Like I'm just gonna keep my I don't want to phrase it. I just want to be open minded, and just let's see what Netflix does. They're really good at making me change my mind about certain things. Speaking of Netflix, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this out there. If you have not seen the second season of The Punisher, you need to watch that shit right now. And that's all I'm gonna say. Spoiler-free review.
Yeah, I'm only on episode 6 right now myself, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm making myself take it slow, but also I'm not exactly riddled with free time at the moment, which is a good thing for me. I like not having free time. It's super enjoyable.
Yep, good stuff. So moving on, this is also pretty enjoyable. Like I hope to one day get this in Roanoke, Virginia. The headline I saw, which I just had to click on it, I couldn't help myself. Autonomous bar will drive up and mix you drinks. Now I'm sure this is going to be a pretty expensive thing. But it's using this technology called Maker Shaker, where it's a robotic arm. It's capable of making 120 drinks per hour. And it's being placed into a self-driving vehicle. It's not like an actual car. It's essentially just a bar that rides around and makes you a drink. I don't know how it's going to charge you. I'm assuming it's going to be credit card only. And you just swipe your card, and there's probably going to be some kind of menu. You type in or just pick a drink, and it mixes it for you, and that goes on to the next person. I think this is amazing. I think it can potentially cut down on things like drunk driving. If you're hanging out with friends at your apartment and you don't want to go out to the liquor store, you just want one drink, you just call up these people or this self-driving car, and it comes, pours you a couple of drinks and goes on about his business, and you can just sit at home and have yourself a drink. I see absolutely no problem with this. I think this is where technology is going. I think it's just an amazing idea. John, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you're all about self-driving cars. What do you think about a self-driving bar that comes to your doorstep?
I think that the idea is great. I see lots of applications in certain size cities all over Europe and probably South America. The only way I see the United States allowing this is where you can block off age restriction and controlling people in the United States. We have a lot more rules about certain things than we should. We're not up there as much as maybe New Zealand. It's a scary place to be as far as rules go, but we're up there.
That's the second time you've mentioned New Zealand on the show about it being
research anything about New Zealand and how under surveillance they are.
No, I've just seen pictures and it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's beautiful, my friend. There's a reason why it's beautiful. There's a reason why they don't have a homelessness problem. They don't have crime issues, really, that it's not like white-collar crime. There is a reason why they don't have litter problems or any of those things in New Zealand. They are the most under surveillance people in the entire world, and they have been since the 80s. It's been like that forever.
You mean under surveillance or over surveilled? It sounded like surveillance.
You said watching you. You are under surveillance.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant
what I'm saying?
Yeah. I got you.
and to be over surveilled are connected things. To be under surveillance is someone who's watching you. To be over surveilled is there's too many people paying attention to what you're doing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Both of those things are true if you live in New Zealand and you're not on a farm. I keep going to that, and that started in the 80s with them. They were the first nation to embrace closed caption television as a way of tracking their citizenry and seeing things about crime. Very famously, the UK is super into that these days and has been for about 15 years now. If you're in a city in the UK, you're under closed caption, closed circuit television surveillance. You just are. It's just the truth. All their traffic lights and all of their businesses. So much stuff about surveillance in the early episodes of Black Mirror back when it was still a BBC show. It's a very, very talked about thing over there.
So I apologize for interrupting. I just thought it was just weird that you mentioned New Zealand multiple times. I just didn't really get it.
No, it's definitely never a bad thing to ask a question. But that's why that is the amount of reading that I've done about Big Brother states all over the world, including our country. It means that it's never too far from the top of my mind, to be honest with you. We humans are much more surveilled than they think they are, and because of that level of control that our government specifically tries to exert, they're not always successful, thank God, but tries to exert, which tells me that it's very unlikely that we're going to see a drive-up bar reach within our lifetime. That being said, this type of tool would be amazing for campsites, would be amazing for festivals, day festivals, and week-long events like Bonnaroo, Burning Man, large campsites that have miles worth of terrain to go through. Anything like that, I think this would be a great tool for, and probably would be licensable.
Oh yeah,
they're always going to be on private property. If you're on your own property, you can do lots of things. Maybe not anything you want, but lots of things that you want. And that's where I see this thriving here in the States. Cities, festivals. There's cities like this that has like this 5-block long strip where you go from bar to bar to bar to bar to club to club. I could see one of these things going back and forth down the street and on Beale Street, selling people drinks all day long. I definitely can see that. That's the application that I see here in the States.
That's fair. I mean, we take alcohol pretty seriously, which is weird because there's plenty of things we don't take seriously, or as seriously as we should as a nation, and as far as the government, because the government makes too much money, right? Off things like cigarettes and opiate production, etc. I think what would scare the government here is probably going to be taxation. Like, how do they tax this thing? Like, how do they monitor it? I think that's going to be the biggest issue.
First, yeah, that's always the U.S.'s first question for anything is how do we make tax revenue out of this?
How do we profit off of this? That should be the American motto right there.
How do you think we got the president that we got?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Gotta have that profit-based mentality. Gotta have that fuck everybody mentality.
Which, I mean, to be perfectly honest, if you have a self-driving car that just cruises around selling people booze, I mean, to me, that just sounds like pure profit. I mean, just put on like an ID scanner and they have to scan their ID before they'll serve them a drink, and you have to scan it every time you order. So there's, I mean, there's ways we could do it. It would just.
I mean, that's simple. That's simply done. Sure.
But yeah, it's well, we'll see how that goes. But you're probably right, honestly. which is unfortunate in a lot of ways. I would love to just be sitting at home watching Netflix and be like, man, you know what? I could really go for a Black Russian right now. And then just go onto some app and order my drink, and it shows up here. I'd drink it, maybe order a second one. I don't know. But God, that would be sweet, wouldn't it?
I wonder if there are states where you can go on Uber Eats and also order your drink, because there are states where, I mean, there's certain states have some, I think, called brew throughs, where you go to a drive through and order your mixed drink and they give it to you through your window. So
When
I wonder if this, in some of these delivery services where you can order your burger and fries from the bar, and also, hey, let me get that, that Black Russian or something, and then they just bring it to you.
I know you can't do anything like that in Virginia. I know that.
Oh, that's never going to be here. Commonwealth states are assholes. They always are. So we're never getting that. But I could definitely imagine that happening in some place like Louisiana.
Well, yeah, sure. When I lived in Mississippi, they had these places where it was a barn, and you would just, now you could not buy cold alcohol in Mississippi for whatever reason. You could only buy room temperature booze. I guess the purpose of that was to keep people from drinking and driving. But anyway,
Yeah.
you would drive into this barn, and you would be like, hey, let me get 10 cases of PBR. And you would pay for it right there. It was a cash business. Pop your trunk, and there were attendants, and they would throw 10 cases of PBR into your trunk. You'd hand your cash out the window, they'd give you your change, and you would drive off. Never stepped foot out of your vehicle.
Right. Well, the kind of business I'm talking about is you go to a drive-through like a McDonald's, but it's a different company, and you say, I want 3 strawberry daiquiris, please.
Oh, like Applebee's or something like that.
And then you drive around to the window, and they hand you 3 daiquiris through the window, and you drive away.
Yeah.
Those exist in Louisiana. They mix them for you, so you're driving down the road drinking a daiquiri.
You know what? Like, that really doesn't bother me. And I'm going to tell you why. Alcohol does not, you're not going to get drunk on your first drink as you're drinking it. That's just not how it affects the human body. Unless it's the first time you've ever had an alcoholic beverage in your life. But
Sure, you're taking meds or something. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
So if you want to take a couple sips off your daiquiri on the way home, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I probably should have a problem with it, but I don't. Because I don't think, quote unquote, drunk driving is cool. Like, if you're over the legal limit, you got no business behind the wheel of a car. Period. But yeah, just if you're sober and you're like, hey, I got this drink, I'm gonna take a quick sip. Sure. I mean, I've done it. I'm gonna be honest, I've done it. John, I don't know if you've ever done it, but I know a lot of people who have.
I've never done anything illegal in my life. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Fair enough. You ready to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, man.
All right, so this is a sad, sad day. Last week we covered the story of China going to the moon and trying to grow some plants. And it looks like that first attempt did not go well. And they're saying that those cotton plants on the moon are most likely dead because of a temperature issue. They're not sure what caused it, how it happened, or anything like that. They just know that it did happen and that the plants are most likely dead. So I just wanted to cover where we are at on that story because I was super excited about it. John was surprisingly excited about it last week. So I hope China gets to work on this some more and try to figure out what went wrong here.
I guarantee you that they're going to continue what they're doing. If you look at this, man, this was going to happen. This is an unmanned. Right? So if something malfunctions, sure they've got things with robotic arms that can fix small things, but it looks like they had a temperature regulator fail, so they just didn't have the ability without a human there to repair things, to take care of it. This kind of stuff's going to happen. I think it's relatively normal. This is one of the reasons why we haven't seen a ton of missions like this, because it's so hard to fix things while you're remote that data is going to be really difficult. Now, they got however many weeks worth of good data based on the amount of time those sprouts were going, and they'll be able to do something with that. This is not the end of anything.
Oh, definitely not. But I just felt like it was important to update.
Sure, no, absolutely, and it's still really interesting, and I think that they'll, if they haven't already launched something else, I'm they will. This is not the end of this by any means.
Definitely not, and I feel like the United States is just getting further and further behind with each passing day.
I
haven't heard about NASA doing anything like this at all. And I usually keep my ear pretty close to the ground with this kind of stuff.
Well, we did recently land another rover on Mars.
That's true. Did that like 3 months ago? I think.
Yeah, about 3 months ago.
Yeah. But I think being able to land on Mars is nothing new. I think being able to grow food in space is very new. And if we ever want to do anything with expanding humanity onto other worlds or into space on a permanent level, we're going to have to be able to grow food. And we're going to have to be able to take care of ourselves. And, this...
Of course.
Landing a rover on Mars doesn't really make me excited because we've landed rovers on Mars before. So yeah, this was... I still feel like the U.S. is definitely behind here. NASA, I don't know what exactly they're planning. I know we did report a few months ago that they were working with some private companies now to help with some things. And I think they're doing something with Boeing very soon. Saw something on that a week or two ago. But nothing nearly as cool as this. I'm just going to straight up. This is like science fiction. This is science fiction coming to life, and it's just got me giddy.
Right.
But yeah, just wanted to update all you guys on that. So unfortunately, it looks like the plants are dead, but we are pretty convinced that China's going to keep going with this. And it's hard to tell where they're going to end up. It looks, I don't know, they might end up being the first one of everybody to be able to have any sort of success with permanent colonies elsewhere besides Earth. So you ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right. Next topic. Deadpool trolls Hugh Jackman hard over the 10-year challenge. I clicked on this and I just started cracking up laughing. Like every once in a while, like I just click on some random headline and I just almost pee myself from laughing so hard. And this is one of those times. So, you go and I don't know if you guys know what the 10-year challenge is, but people have been posting, pictures of themselves from 2009 and then posting pictures of themselves as like a side-by-side comparison 10 years later, which is like right now. And so Ryan Reynolds did one of an old Wolverine. I'm assuming this is from the first Wolverine movie or the second Wolverine movie, maybe. And then he posted another screenshot for the 2019 part, and it was Logan's grave from the movie Logan, and it had like the X there, and his quote unquote daughter was like walking away from it, and I just thought it was hilarious. John, did you get a kick out of this?
Yeah, it was pretty good, man. I like Ryan Reynolds' social media stuff. The guy's he's just a fucking funny dude.
He is a very funny guy.
And the fact that he continues to do this kind of stuff, I think is pretty great. Love for Hugh Jackman to finally say fuck it, let's do a movie together. I don't think he's ever gonna do it, but it would be great if he would.
No, like they're never gonna do anything like that, but it's fun to think about.
Absolutely, because it would be a blast for sure. Film and have Ryan Reynolds voice Deadpool and have somebody else voice Wolverine. Maybe the guy who did Wolverine in the 90s show. He did a great job. They could do it that way.
Yeah. There's probably a few different ways they could do it, which would make it really funny and also kind of corny, but in a funny
They
way.
could they could cut images and sound from every film Hugh Jackman's ever done, CGI style, into him acting as Deadpool around him, and they could release that.
Yeah, that would be pretty fucking funny.
That could be hilarious, especially seeing some of the things that he's worn in some of the films he's been in.
Yeah.
Um,
Hulu has cut its price of the basic service it offers to $6 a month. And that's what the headline said, but further on down, it looks like they're jacking up the price of their most expensive service by $5. So they cut the cheapest service by $2, which still shows ads. And then it jacked up the most expensive service by $5, $45 a month. That is the Hulu plus live TV bundle. I'm sure that this is in response to Netflix cranking up their own prices. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I think we're about to see one hell of a pricing war, like straight up Coca-Cola versus Pepsi style between all these streaming services once they get going. And I think it's probably going to last for 3 to 5 years before things settle down.
John? That's what I've been waiting for.
Yeah, right?
I called this a year ago. It was the price points was going to be the point of contention and where they start to battle these things, because all of these streaming services are going to have their own content. Fucking, of course they are. Yeah. They have ridiculous amount of funding, and most of the content is going to be good. It's not all going to appeal to everyone, right, but most of it's going to be good. There's lots of things that don't appeal to me that I will gladly admit is good for being what it is. The whole Hulu thing, surprised that a version of Hulu that has live network television on it is going to be more expensive than any of this other crap. I mean, they also it's over multiple. Hulu is a collaboration of all the major networks except CBS, because CBS can fuck themselves. Realistically, the fact that they brought service, even though it does have occasional commercials, and I think that on average you're going to see 3 commercials per hour show or something. It's not much. My understanding is I'm likely to just add that on to what I already paid to things every month. $6. That's not even a mixed drink anymore.
Right.
Whatever. When it gives me access to new episodes of Cloak and Dagger, which is one of the best shows that no one's ever seen, new episodes of Runaways, which is basically ripped directly from the comic book. It's very well done, and especially with the new season of Castle Rock coming up fairly soon. I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever seen Castle Rock, by the way, but if not, you're fucking up.
Well, I don't like Hulu because I don't like their interface. I have problems getting these shows to actually stream for some reason. I don't know if I'm the only one, but sometimes I'll just click on a show and nothing will happen. And I'll just sit there and do the buffering thing for like ever. And
their interface is definitely not the best. I'll agree with you there. But certain Castle Rock by itself is worth it. I actually subscribed to them for about 2 months out of last year when Castle Rock was coming on. I waited until there were 8 episodes in, and then I wanted the show. And that show alone to me was worth the $8 a month for 2 months to do it.
I've done the free trial thing with a couple different emails, but I was just not impressed. Definitely, for me, if I'm paying you money, then your shit needs to work when I want it to work. And if it's not going to work, and it's not going to work, 10% of the time, which is what it ended up being, then I'm not going to continue paying for it. And so I just let it go. Is what it is. Missing out on some quality shows, I'm well aware. But I'm just not going to pay for things that don't work the way they're intended to work. All right, next topic here. We reported on this twice, actually. Dr. He is his name. He did some gene splicing, and then he went missing. If you want, the full story was he apparently lied about a lot of things. Like, he was supposed to never, like, plant these genes, this modified DNA into an embryo. But he did it anyway. He did it against permission. Like, I mean, obviously it's unethical, but he didn't have permission from anybody to do it. I don't think the parents of the girls even really knew what was up, and had any idea what they were really getting themselves into. And so then later on, I think about a week or two after the story broke, the doctor went missing. And he was essentially under house arrest by the government while they figured out what they were going to do with him. Because in China, you never know what's going to happen to you when you do something like this. Apparently, he's finally been released. But they're coming out saying that he did this for personal fame. Which is... This is one of those things with China where you really never know why. You never know why they want Dr. He to say this. Did they take his research? Are they going to use it for their own reasons? Or did they instruct him to say, I was doing this for personal fame? It also could be completely and totally true. He could have just been... He wanted his 15 minutes. Like, he wanted to try and change the world in a positive way and get some fame for it. You never really know. John, what do you think? I mean, we can speculate all day, but do you think this was an actual personal fame kind of thing? Because when we first reported on this story, it really didn't seem like that was what he was all about.
I think he's dead.
Fair enough.
I think that there's no way that this person is still alive. I think that if you see anything saying he's making any kind of statements, if you see anything showing him doing anything, I don't think that's really Dr. He. I think that guy died once got out that he was doing these types of experimenting. I think that he was doing it at the behest of the Chinese government, and then word got out, and so they're having to deny. No way that in a country where scientists are under the amount of scrutiny that they are, access to that kind of equipment would be able to do anything that wasn't at the behest of the Chinese government. I don't think we realize as Americans we lost a lot of mobility and freedom in this country over the past 20 years. I'm not going to say we haven't. Ever since the Patriot Act started, we've lost things here and there. But in China, they never had it. The whole different world over there. I've said this a couple of times on the podcast, but the amount of autonomy they don't have, the amount of oversight, everything in China has. There's no way the government did not know what was going on. And they were fine with it until the rest of the world community started to catch on to what was happening. And then they were required to pretend that just was not the case. And that's what we're seeing. I believe that if there ever was a Dr. He, that he was executed.
Yeah, according to this article, no one has seen him still. According to this article from geek.com, which I'll of course post as I always do in the links below on YouTube, as well as on the website. The last paragraph said he apparently MIA since making an appearance at the Second International Summit of Human Genome Editing in early December, as well as other relevant personnel and organizations are expected to face undisclosed punishment for their actions. So this guy has not been seen since he was taken into custody. So, John, I mean, you could very well be right. This guy could be dead as a fucking doornail at this point. It's been an interesting story to follow, mainly because we've been keeping a close eye on what the Chinese have been doing with some of the weird shit that they do to track the people living there. To keep them under surveillance on a level that even people in the UK would balk at, right? And
Absolutely, absolutely. The town tattletales.
yeah,
It's just that program is just it's just ridiculous.
well, almost everything they're doing is ridiculous. I mean, the uniforms that are trackable that they're putting on school kids. I mean, get the fuck out of here. And so, yeah, John and I, for everyone listening at home, we both follow China pretty closely. Like when something goes down over there, we'd like to hear about it, and just because, from a sociological perspective, it's interesting, it's fascinating, it's fucked up, but it's fascinating. So we'd like to report on these things when we find them. And John, I hope you're wrong. I don't think you are, but I hope you are.
Me too, man. Me too.
So that's the update on the Dr. He issue going on over in China. So let's move on to our next topic. This one's kind of weird. This startup claims it will brainwash Facebook users for $29. Now, I think, first of all, this startup is full of crap. I don't think you can brainwash people with ads. I think too many people have various ad blockers. I think people are leaving Facebook in droves. I think marketing companies are still trying to bring in clients and say, oh, well, we're going to do this with Facebook. We're going to do that with Facebook. And they're kicking out data that is from 10, 12, 8 years ago. I mean, no one's looking at Facebook over the last 1 to 2 years and seeing how everybody's pretty much leaving. And it's all hogwash. Brainwashing people isn't that easy. I mean, you can influence them, sure. But you're not going to influence them the way you want to. It's just not going to happen. John, what did you think about this article? I realized it was a little clickbaity, but I just couldn't help but read into it. And I read over what all they do, and it's just absurd. It doesn't work. This is a scheme. This is essentially a cash grab kind of scheme, in my opinion.
I think a lot of people have experienced the situation where you buy a red car. For a couple of months, you have that car. You see a lot more red cars than you used to. In reality, those cars would have still been there, but because your car is red and you think about your car because it's your car, you're more likely to see things that look similar to that. And that's a normal documentable thing that people have known about forever and forever and forever. And that's the principle that these people are trying to work under. If you see something, you see it, then you're more likely to think about it, and maybe if it's a product, maybe you're more likely to try that product. And that's what they're going for here.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty basic marketing stuff.
As a marketing tactic, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Now, if looking into this article where it talks about you have to get someone to click a link, getting someone to click a link. And then if they click a link, it puts a cookie into the browser of their phone that ads show up. I don't know who these people are that are looking at websites on their phone that will show ads mobilely. But my phone sure as fuck doesn't do that. The ads on my phone almost ever. So there's that. And you're definitely not getting ads on Facebook on your phone. Or if you are, then you're not using the app because the app doesn't support ads.
I don't actually use Facebook on my phone. I hate Facebook with a passion.
Use it for business purposes, mostly, and also gatherings of people, coordinating, people hanging out and doing things. That's why I use Facebook for myself. But those aren't things that pop up that way on your phone. That's not how that works. And also, if you're going to go to the technical, and I know that this is talking about a company in the UK, it's not talking about the US, but technically, if you send someone something over the internet that you know is going to put something on their device that's going to alter it in some way, you're technically within the definition of hacking in the United States, and you can actually get. I don't think you can get arrested for it, but you can get charged for it. This particular program would actually be breaking the law in the United States. I'm fairly certain.
I'm not 100.
You're technically hacking their computer by putting something on it that manipulates the way is intended to work, as opposed to what a normal cookie does, which is just collect information and transmit information. That's all cookies are allowed to do. Is basically so. Realistically, even if this takes off in the UK, I don't see these people ever getting a license to do business in the United States. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Bullshit or not, snake oil or not, I don't see them ever being allowed to do business here.
Yeah, like, it's unfortunate. Like, when I first read this article, I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was, horse shit, but interesting nonetheless that they're going to try to sell off their marketing scheme as being able to brainwash people. But after reading over this again today, I was really kind of disappointed. I was like, this isn't nearly as interesting as I thought it was originally. This is just kind of boring. This is just marketing people doing what marketing people do and trying to convince people that they can make the impossible possible.
Right.
Which I guess I technically work in marketing. So this shit doesn't really faze me like it hits other people. But for people out there who are listening to the show right now, marketers do all kinds of things to try and grab your attention. Just don't let them. Just ignore it. Like, you know what you want to see. You know what you don't want to see. Don't let a marketer or an advertising person try to influence that. Because once they do start to influence you, they got you. You got. And at that point, it's on you. And that's about all I got to say about that.
Fair enough.
Did you want to add anything else? All right. So we're going to move on to a more exciting topic, in my opinion. I first saw my godson playing this game, or a game very similar to it, a few months ago, and I was like, what are you playing? And he's like, bro. Because he's 11, so he does shit like this. He's like, bro, it's Farming Simulator. How have you not heard about this? And I was just like, I don't fucking know, kid. Like, I didn't realize farming simulators were a real thing. But apparently they are. Farming Simulator joins the world of esports with its own league. That's right, people. In Europe, they have set up a full-fledged esports league for Farming Simulator in Europe only, with a prize pool of £250,000. To me, this is a big deal. We're starting to see more and more esports leagues pop up, and I'm loving every second of it. Like, I'm an avid gamer. I'm a gaming enthusiast. If you've ever come across my YouTube channel, you've probably noticed that there's a lot of gaming content. And this one at first I was like, no way. Farming Simulator is not really getting an esports league. This is clickbait. But then I started reading about it, and this is very, very real. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to have 10 different tournaments all across Europe, and they'll have bale stacking, 3v3, which I don't understand how a competitive 3v3 mode will work in a game called Farming Simulator, but it looks really fucking neat. Like, I loved it. I love this idea. I love the fact that there's so many other games besides first-person shooters and battle royale games. They're starting to get some press and form their own leagues and have real prize pools. John, what are your thoughts on it?
Do you really want me to answer that question, Matt? Well, I can answer the question, but
all opinions are. Yes. Man. I want you to talk about it. I mean, even if your opinion isn't what mine, it's fine.
Look, I get doing things you give a shit about, and I agree with that desire. I would love to stream Magic for a living. That would be a goal of mine. that's more work than having a traditional job, and I totally get that. And I have a lot of respect for the dudes and chicks who are able to make that work. And same thing with other games. That I think is totally cool that these people can sit there and play fucking some game that they enjoy, and people reward them for it with money enough to a point where they don't actually have to have a quote unquote boss. And I really do want to stress that the people who do that are working more than most people who have a straight 40-hour job who's not in a trade. Trades are different. You work more in a trade. That's just the way it works. But people who have office jobs, sorry, office job folks, these streamers are probably working harder than you are, and they probably care more about what they're doing. That being said, people who do this stuff really want. I still want a different term. That's never going to change for me. I want a different term than esports, but I'm not going to get one, so I'm just going to deal with it.
Yep.
They want esports to be taken seriously. Simulator ain't it. It's just not. Take an interview with someone who does not play games. Anyone who looks at the video of someone playing Farming Simulator is never going to be able to. They're never going to be able to take it seriously, and maybe that's their problem. But because there's so many more of them than there are of us, it's our problem too.
But
and I have a real hard time. One who has multiple friends much in games, taking it seriously myself. You sent me, Matt, and I almost didn't even click on it. I thought you were trolling.
Dude, I thought IGN was trolling me, bro.
Simulator exists. I knew it was a game. You know, the fact that people care enough about this to actually be able to fund £50,000, is that what it was?
Yeah, British pounds.
That's completely unrealistic to me.
It is.
Seriously, and that they can get some sponsorships, and then they can make that work. I guess more power to you. You know, at least you're not trying to brainwash people into religion or something. I mean, I guess you got that going for you. But like, it's just really hard for me to take it with a straight face.
Right, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this. You know, when Fortnite first came out, I'm sure you and I mean, I know I was, but I'm sure you felt the same way. You were just like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, it's just some kind of kids game. Like, this is just going to die off in a couple months, just like every other kids game does, right? And, you know, here we are several years later. It's not the case. Like, it's blown up. Like, esports is becoming a very real thing, and it doesn't seem... Now, it could be a fad. You know, we could see this thing die off in a few years. But I'm starting to think maybe we won't. Given the success of several Twitch streamers, the success of several video game tournaments and leagues, I think that when Farming Simulator has a leg to stand on as far as the esports goes, like, it looks more and more like esports is actually here to stay, and people are taking it seriously, and it's becoming a legitimate business. It's becoming a legitimate way of life as far as these gamers. It's becoming more and more real with every passing day. And I know that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but it looks like it's becoming more and more real. Anything to add there?
I think we got it.
No rebuttal? Really?
No.
Really?
I've said my piece.
That's unfortunate. All right, moving on to the last topic of the day. Viacom buys the free video streaming service Pluto TV for $340 million. For those of you who don't understand just how much $340 million is, it's not too far off from Taylor Swift's net worth. So it's a lot of money. Uh, Viacom is, you're probably like, who the hell is Viacom? I've never heard of Viacom. Well, have you heard of MTV? Have you heard of Comedy Central? Have you heard of BET? Or possibly even Nickelodeon? These are all brands under the Viacom umbrella. And if you've never heard of Pluto TV, that doesn't surprise me. I had not heard of Pluto TV until I read this article, and I went and checked it out, and that service is pretty sweet, I gotta say. Now, unfortunately, I think that Viacom is going to take it, turn it into a subscription service, and turn it into their own streaming platform. And that's really, really unfortunate that a really cool free way to watch TV like Pluto TV is going to turn into something like that. Now, I do not. Now, this is part speculation. However, in this article, a Viacom rep did say that they want to quote. Here's the whole quote right here. Pluto TV's unique and market-leading product combined with Viacom's brands, content, advanced advertising capabilities, and global scale creates a good opportunity for consumers, partners, and Viacom. What that says to me is that Viacom is going to load this thing up with ads, possibly do a Hulu-like subscription service where they've got one with ads and one without, and they're going to throw a bunch of shit like Teen Wolf on there and turn it into a garbage platform. That's my personal opinion. Everybody wants in on the streaming game. There's going to be winners and losers here, and I feel like Viacom's going to be a huge loser if this is what they try to do. John, what do you think?
Well, I think that okay, so I have a hard is that there are very many people who don't actually know something about who Viacom is to begin with. They have been a giant of the early 80s, late 70s. They own all of the networks that you just mentioned, and they have been the studio behind dozens upon dozens upon dozens of television shows that are on other networks as well. Viacom they're fucking huge. They're also during the 80s and 90s were one of the biggest distribution companies for syndicated television shows in the entire world. If you ever liked a non-Paramount television show, then you got Viacom to thank for it existing, basically, as far as distributing goes to television networks and to cable networks. They're fucking huge. So it's not surprising that they're looking for their own in to the streaming world, because I think that the days able to successfully exist without having some form of streaming of your content are numbered. I think that it's not going to work for very much longer. It does not surprise me that they would have figured it out. I don't know who the fuck Pluto TV is, realistically. I've never heard of it before in my entire life. But there's a lot of like what I would consider off-brand situations that people mention here and there around me that I've never fucking heard of before, and I really never bother to fuck with them. Just because I get all the content that I'm looking for anyway, so it's fine for me. Right on a tiered service like Hulu, I think that particular type of service is very appealing to old school companies. It's something that they understand. They understand and premium stuff, and pay in packages. So since that's part of the world that they still get, they kind of grip onto that. That's why they're interested in it. It's a way to as part of the advertising of it. So yeah, you're probably right on that point. I'm interested in what they do, not as far as new programming. I think new programming for every single one of the cable networks you mentioned is garbage. I think it all sucks.
Yeah, 100%.
There are movies and TV shows and programs that were created by BET, MTV, and all these other places that are from back in the day that were fucking good, that we've never seen come out on DVD. We've never seen come out on Amazon streaming, never seen come out on Netflix. These things have never been available to us in the modern day because, man, the 90s was fucking, you know what I'm saying? More than 20 years ago, 40 years ago. You know, we're talking stuff ever since. And there's lots of stuff that I think that has value to be seen that this Viacom deal may open up for us and for people who are younger than us. And I think there's some real value there. BET, quality program over the years, and you have no access to it right now. You know?
I mean, it's been so long since I watched any of these. I have no idea what's going on any of these networks. I'm going to be honest.
All the modern shit is complete garbage. I don't even have to watch it to know, just based on seeing things that are posted by my friends who do keep up with television. And I don't understand how any of these people have time to keep up with television, to be really honest with you. The only way I'm able to keep up with any of this modern programming that we love so much is because it is streaming, because I can choose my time frame to sit there and watch it as I'm able to. But I don't have time for a serialized once a week television show, man. Could you imagine actually, you know, it's Thursday, it's almost 8:00. I gotta go watch Sabrina because that's the only time ABC wants to show me. Can you imagine that right now in 2019?
No. And here's the thing: if you want me to watch your television show, John, you better put that show on Netflix, because I need to be able to watch the entire season at my fucking convenience, because I'm a millennial, and I do things at my convenience, not at your fucking convenience. And if you know, there may be plenty of people out there that will sit down every Thursday at 8:00 to watch a show, but that number is dwindling quickly. Like, it's dwindling fast, John. There's more and more people like us. Like, we have limited time. There's shit we want to do. There's shit we got to do. And so if you want us to be able to consume your content, then it needs to be at our convenience, period. And I think these people who aren't doing that are going to start losing huge.
Absolutely. And I think that we're going to see more companies that are like Viacom. The few that are left, you know, a lot of these old school companies from the 80s and 90s were gobbled up by Time Warner and by Disney and by other companies like Viacom.
Univision.
Over the last 20 years or so. Most of the old school ones, they just don't exist anymore.
I don't think people realize how big Univision really is. I don't think it's called Univision anymore, but it's fucking huge.
Talking about the Spanish language,
correct,
television network.
Yes. They now own Gizmodo and all of its associated websites.
Gizmodo?
Yep.
That seems like a strange acquisition.
I think most of the things these media companies do seem like strange acquisitions, to be honest with you. These large media companies make a lot of really questionable decisions. But yeah, it looks like everyone's, you know, I mean, we saw this coming a mile away. It's unfortunate, though, because this Pluto TV looks like a pretty cool little platform. I highly recommend checking it out, you know, just for a few minutes and seeing everything that they have available on there. Probably worth your time. And then you can get a pretty good idea of how Viacom's going to fucking ruin it.
Fair enough, man.
I mean, they are. That's what they're... I mean, we both know that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, no problem.
But hopefully the guys that, you know, are running the show over at Pluto get a nice chunk of change out of it.
Well, I mean, if they're allowed to continue to run their own stuff and just have to start piping Viacom stuff through it, that may not happen. That's the only way it can be saved, is if the Viacom guys are like, all right, what you're doing is working great, this 20-year chunk worth of our stuff into it, make that happen. Now, that is doable.
Yeah. I think you're probably right there. All right, you ready to wrap the show up for today?
Yeah, man.
All right, guys. This is Matt and John here with the Nerd Talk podcast by thedigitalworm.com. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for hanging out, and you guys have a nice week. See you next time.